Page 318. That it, S king of it, Y a la queen, and K as the cube of space. A while, Alpha Beta is a 3D supersonic time machine with 6 face sides, 12 exterior edges, and 3 interior planes and 1 center, asking of it why y'all, in a being seen money, a Monai point of you appearing and gazing it out in 22 twisting, whirling literally all in towards and for mine, merely a double. Mirrored in words, zany thoughts of it. Thoughts of a singular gotta say to be still, indivisible invisibility of a being seen, money, of a why Monai, of her him it as forever young, you, androgyne dancer, as cosmic comic dancing denouncing, surrounded by 6 directions, as X per eye and seeing it out, as X plantations, of a supersonic, multi-directional, super over freestanding of a being seen, understanding captured out in any spelling of y'all. It says cosmic whirling world of a being seen, why Monai, of a hermit appearing it, a gazing it from above as below, of a being seen, a beaming, beaming, out of it still in the first place. Our size leap black into a unconsciousness in a being seen of a portable time machine. That's a why Monai, as existing information by appearing and gazing it out in word, a pairing with Inca's memory, with any a now why potential intent to disregard it by a now knowing out denial of it, of a being seen indivisible invisibility still in the first place, now, as king of it, why, a knowing out any imagining of it, any, a now why, imaginary image now, appearing of it out information a while, appearing it, gazing it out inward from above as below, of a being seen from desire. Possibilities, the vehicle that transports you now supernaturally, is any thoughts of it, any wordship, worship, inform as inwardly, all into past at or a future of a few prototypes that you are I all in as XX planets, mirror planar fields of a being as anybody now, that I'm asking of it why, and knowing out of it which face is Warrain a tracking. Yeah, it sounds like that train track going to be leaving the station shortly, Moore added as he pulled up highlights with a rag. He found certain highlights on her form emerging, wiping back fresh paint layers, leaving a diffused light coming from the intense white gesso layers beneath. Enough in words. Time now, asking of why, knowing without the memory, Christina offered, taking the palette knife from his hand and slipping into his arms. He felt the silk of her nylon stocking slide over his bare leg, her naked breast crushed into his chest. This is where it gets to a being seen Y as X-etine, a DNA denial factor, where the knuckle now knows meeting the bone. The silver BMW maneuvered through surface streets to Highway 184, back across the Dumbarton Bridge. For a brief moment, Cassandra saw through the grid of civilization. The opposite shoreline, now free of high-tension lines, industrial parks, and freeways. In her mind's eye, she now saw naked people gathering clams in reed baskets, their bodies patterned with tattooed dots. Some wore bones through noses, teeth, and claws as necklaces. They moved with purpose, connected to the food without and dreams within. When she looked again, the shoreline, spoiled by urban sprawl, now seemed defiled, polluted by years of progress, people hidden away now in boxes and cages and smartphones, except for an old black fisherman on a long wooden pier. She recognized the snow-white curls of beard and hair that hung over his head like a cloud. He wore his everyday starched khakis with wide green suspenders. She knew him as Amos. She thought of him as a saint, perhaps a good omen. Gray-green water chopped with the wind as a power launch tore past in a cleavage of white foam. She spotted the Mark IV rolling through an intersection, fawn rave at the wheel, corner slumped against the passenger door. Quisana cut into the left lane, jetting through a break in oncoming traffic as the light changed. Corner flipped her his middle finger. She offered an upraised open hand in reply. The Mark IV roared through on red, leaving her stuck at the light. Corner headed south in the direction of the portal, not east of the warehouse. Quisana could only guess at how Corner had exchanged fawn rave for a chamois. There could be another skeleton to stack in Corner's full closet. The more she thought about bones, the bigger the pile grew in her mind until skulls and tibias rose above, a jagged tower overshadowing the sun. As the light turned green, she accelerated through the intersection. Driving, the fingers of her free hand touched her cheekbone. Pressing with thumb under the ridge of her jaw, she traced its contour. Her fingers continued to track the underlying contours of teeth, mandible, and maxilla. Her experience in the pod turned the world without often into one continuous strobing field of wavering colored light patterning with her eyes, a being, anybody now, merely mirrored awareness of a being seen of it, the ABCs of it, a being seen appearing out of her, appearing and gazing it out in word now, knowing it. In a word, as existing information of anybody, anytime, anywhere. That's it, she thought. I've completely lost my mind. It's been blown to bits. The power of her ancestry in dream time certainly surpassed her waking state. Yet this power without ancestry, this a power appearing and gazing it out from above in words of a being seen yet in the primary state without any inward informed memory of it as anybody appearing out of it. A power of any desire to appear often out of it. Out there in that blink of eye, moment by moment appearing, she mused. Now, post-pod, she found her memory often lost in the black around power of it, instantly disappearing in it. Instantaneous reabsorption of her in it, still in her eye, appearing out of it, by now asking of it a knowing it out in word. She now inward memory of it or not at all. A woman in faded Levi's cruised the street, a cigarette like an extra finger stuck out from her hand. For a moment their eyes met, a flash of recognition passing. The bones get around, she thought. With yet another green light, she drove for the portal. Page 320. Fawn refused to look at Corner. He wanted to give her a taste of the violence that lurked behind any act of human kindness. Instead, he merely smiled. Two Latinos crossed in front of them at a red light. Their bare, tattooed, covered arms dangled as they walked. Eyes veiled in sunglasses scanned the terrain with predatory pose. Corner laid his hand on the grip of the pistol in his lap. Be cool now. Don't get someone else killed. La Chica let her foot slip, the Mark IV rolling forward. The Latinos jumped, losing their street posturing. One slapped both palms down on the car's front fender. What the fuck? Later, Holmes. Corner jammed Fawn's foot with his on the gas. He watched the cursing pair fade from sight. Why do they put that shit on their arms? He asked. They're ganged up. Out here, the sadistas rule. They don't even rule their own dicks. He directed her to Menlo Park and the portal. He watched as they drove past three-story commercial buildings and warehouse lofts until reaching open ground littered with debris. The grassy esplanade and sandstone offices off in the distance. Coroner ordered her to stop by the chain-link fence topped with coils of razor wire surrounding McCracken's airstrip. This is where we get in, chica de muchacha. You know Willie and Muddy? I've seen them play where they stay, Southside Chicago blues. Coroner sang in a throaty growl. I'm a backdoor man. The men don't know, but the little girl understand. Tires from a twin-engine Beechcraft squealed as its wheels caught purchase on an asphalt runway, dissected with veins of black tar. Fumes of spent fuel, creosote, bay water, and burning rubber assailed Coroner as he stepped from the Mark IV. He curled the fingers of his good hand through the galvanized chain links. He wanted to bust in, grab the copper scroll data, do McCracken, and steal the Beechcraft, taking the tart for a ride. Let her feel the power of his dick throbbing in her throat as he pulled off the ground in a hail of lead. Walking back to the car, Coroner popped the Altoids tin, breaking a quarter-sized rock into dime-sized pieces. He motioned to her with his chin. She let her mouth fall open, licking her lips. He played his finger over her tongue. Coroner popped another rock. Drop that into reverse about 30 yards to that green sign yonder. Then slam into drive and mash the gas. This baby is built like a tank. He leaned back and closed his eyes. Coroner's sight bowed with the earth's curvature. His mind had better wings than the Beechcraft. Anger distracted Hashimi. Coroner liked to think he never killed a man unless he earned it, like McCracken trying to play him with the Copper Scroll translation. Coroner looked at the chica with her head down, the flesh of her neck and shoulders oozing with the smell of fear. Open! He raised her chin with his fingers and slid in a rock. The back of his hand brushed the uplift of her breasts. Knuckles caressed the flesh, massaging her cleavage. Her chest heaved, a tiny gold cross on a thin chain lay flat on her brown skin. Her flesh shone with sweat in the light reflected from the hood of the Mark IV. She leaned against the leather headrest. Her mouth fell open, tongue rolling to puff out her lower lip. She tapped the gear shift into drive and hit the gas. Tires squealed as the engine roared. Beyond the confines of the Mark IV, diamond links of steel wire exploded into fragments. Fawn jerked the wheel, the car fishtailing across the tarmac. He had her put on the brakes at the rear of a three-story office. Coroner retrieved his satchel from behind the seat. The bitch deserves punishment for her insolence, like a blast from the taser. Maybe later, he decided. Movement reintroduced pain to his shoulder as he sucked air. Heat waves rose across the runway, rippling the massive hangar on the far side. Both hands on the wheel, he said as he took out a pair of white plastic zip cuffs. Strapping her wrist to the wheel, he shoved a giant baseball cap on her head. Be good, and I'll show you some fun when I get back. Coroner stuffed his pockets with the cigarette pack charges and speed loaders for the Colt. He strode in through the rear entrance as he headed to McCracken's office. He was surprised at the laxness of security. No locked doors impeded his progress. In a washroom, to splash cold water on his face and knock the cobwebs from his eyes, Coroner tried to extend his left arm. His badly swollen eye made him a one-eyed vengeance. Color drained from his face. Feeling haggard and spent, he made for the third floor. He slipped the gun from his coat pocket, brushing his hair with spread fingers. Might as well look good for the game. A security guard appeared as he turned a corner at the far end of the hall. Coroner cracked him on his head, pushed him in a conference room, zip-cuffed his hands, and gagged his slack mouth. The outer office had no lights on, computer screens blanket their stations. Coroner opened the brass plate double door leading into the main office. McCracken's pre-Columbian meets chrome and glass. McCracken's collection left Coroner cold. He dragged a fertility stick from its teakwood pedestal to the high-backed leather chair. Coroner dropped into the chair, pressing his spine against its contours. Block currents opened in a rush of blood to his brain. Sitting in this museum put thoughts of the scroll treasure into the proper context. He saw McCracken's private jet down below, less than 100 yards from the office. Coroner flipped open his cell and pressed the speed dial. He flopped his boots on the polished marble desktop. "Where are you?" demanded McCracken. "In your house, Bwana. Bring the translation. I told you to watch your back and not put too much faith in fences." Page 322. "Getting in is sometimes easier than getting out," McCracken replied. Coroner took another rock from the tin as he flipped the cell phone shut. The flake melted into the nerves only millimeters from his brain. A plan began to formulate. He spun the nickel-plated pistol on the desk. Brass doors burst open. He stared down the MAC-10 slung on the shoulders of two guards in black suits who posed like paper cutouts for target practice. McCracken stepped between them, wearing a gray silk suit and crew-neck shirt. Gold rings dotted his fingers. The patina of centuries added rainbows to their sheen. They paled next to the glitter in his eyes. "The scroll is nothing compared to the dead I've witnessed," said McCracken. "Can't buy me love or jet fuel." "Where's the half-baked artist?" "He's in my ride below." McCracken looked out the window. "The guy has tits?" "Pow! Pow!" Coroner fired the python, putting holes between the shocked eyes of the guards. He watched them slump down like sacks of meat. "Best to die with your boots on, boys." He wondered for a second if they'd be missed. "Too much faith in weaponry slows your reflexes. Ask them." Coroner set the pistol down, grimacing, cordite laying in the air. "What's the matter, Whip? Someone pull down your pants and leave your ass flapping in the breeze?" "That was unnecessary. I have what you want." "Good. We can share the moment." "I knew you killed my sensei." "He died for your sins. Let's have a look-see." Coroner waved McCracken to the laptop, laying flat as a sheaf of paper on the marble. McCracken shrugged. When he was in action at Zena's brothel, McCracken acted like he had been born to dominate. His air of superiority had chafed Coroner from the moment they met. Still, he had to smile at McCracken, not a trace of fear showing. He was him, without the war, without that meat grinder grinding everybody. The ones walking away most of all, he thought, checking the cut of McCracken's suit, accenting the jauntiness of his movements as he slid over to the computer. McCracken reached inside his jacket. Coroner swung his good hand, jerking him down with a fistful of his silk shirt. A wild swing from McCracken, and Coroner planted two swift headbutts. He pulled McCracken close. "Do what I say or I'll kill you, but not before I give you a sampling of the pain you like to inflict on the weaker sex," Coroner growled, flicking spittle on the man's face. "A power object means squat if you can't bring it to your fist." He released his hold on the silk, bringing the fertility stick down across McCracken's shoulders. The blow whacked off hard muscle. McCracken, barely flinching, dipped a hand into his jacket and pulled out a CD-ROM. He slid the glistening disc into the tray of his laptop, tapped a few keys, and slid the unit over. The copper scroll appeared on the flat screen, iridescent colors glancing off its patina. An inventory of lost treasure, hammered by scribes whose bones turned to dust several millennia ago, waited for the right man to come along. "This ain't a translation. It's all Greek to me," said Coroner. Hebrew, actually. According to the file, the scroll was written in a code of numbers and letters. In Hebrew, every letter has a numerical value, some more than one. McCracken tapped another key, the image magnified until the indentation of the marks could be seen. Tell me what the picture means. Any kind of location, GPS coordinates? Look closer. That's Greek. He moused an arrow, tracing the shadow of a letter superimposed over the Hebrew text. Yeah, still Greek to me. What's it say? Coroner felt his energy falling like a battery running down. He gave McCracken a weak shove before sitting back in the leather chair. You don't look so good, amigo. Maybe killing doesn't agree with you anymore. I tell you something, while holding this pistola in the upper hand, I am seriously with one foot in the next world. I'm ready and willing to shed this old skin. One thing, just one, keeping me here, and that's laying these tired eyes on that pile of golden antiquities. Tut City, baby. Speaking of Tut, the Greek word hidden in the scroll, and I mean it took me mucho hours of gazing to pick up on it. The word is Akhenaten. The Tut treasure was actually primarily his, Akhenaten's. The treasure may be buried in Egypt, not Israel. Howard Carter, the American, was decades searching before a boy in his camp stumbled on it. The buried stairs leading to it. Sure, but he didn't have the technology we have. So that's all. Just one word, one name. That's it. Coroner slammed his fist. I'm going into the pod. Give the word and get me set up. Make the call.